Hi folks, I was thinking about to do this morning. I want to do this little demo for you, but it's a preparatory design for an abstract landscape for Patreon, which will follow. So I hope that both are demonstrations in their own right. This one will the watercolor will be the sketch, the preparatory design. Uh, Now, abstracting doesn't mean stuff that you can't understand or you can't read. It's just a way of expressing what you feel about a landscape. And having painted as long as I have, it took a long time before I realised that I was doing what everybody else was doing, was taking photographs, trying to copy them and putting them up as art. It was only probably over the last 4 or 5 years of doing this and doing so much work on YouTube and looking at a lot of other artists on Facebook mostly, that you realise that there are different ways of expressing the same thing, which is a personal approach to art. Difficult to explain what I mean, but if you look at some abstract paintings or abstract landscapes compared to a figurative landscape, you'll see that with a figurative one, everything that is there to be discovered is there in front of you. It leaves nothing to the imagination. It's just a copy. It's like plein air painting can be like that. You're there and you're dominated by the scene in front of you, and unless you really use your imagination, it turns out to be just another piece of craft rather than an expression of art. And I've been watching Catherine Williams' documentary on BBC iPlayer, and there was a case in point. His landscapes are largely abstract because they don't represent an exact copy of what was in front of him or what he did from his sketches. They are his personal interpretation of the scenes. In other words, you can change the colours. You can change the colours of trees. You can change the placement of your objects. You can enhance them. That's the sort of thing that I mean, rather than copy from a photograph or copy from a copy. Copy. There's nothing wrong with it. I mean, it's a valuable piece of art, but has its great place. But the Impressionists got away from realism. It's that sort of thing. And one of the great exponents, into my view, that I've experienced is, well, there are two. One is Arthur Maddison, paints mostly, I think, in acrylic and oil. But over the years, I've seen him get more and more abstracts. But you'll have to look at him on Facebook or Google Arthur Maddison, Maderson, and have a look. Jackie Gardner is another one that is currently my favourite. She does wonderful things with her impressive imagination, which I haven't got. So anyway, enough yak from me. Yesterday we went to a funeral we went from London down to Weymouth and then on to Bridport for a funeral and a wake. And we went through the New Forest, and looking at it, it's quite in part nondescript, but it has enormous potential for abstraction. So what I'll do, I'm going to wet a bit of this paper. It's just a bit of Bockingford, and I want a bit of grey, bit of red in there. Can add a little bit of light to that. Oops, clean the brush. So I'm going to follow this up. This is in two parts. That's not the watercolour. A bit of red. And I want to get some. I want the oil to be much darker than the oil paint to be much darker than this. So we add a bit of red to that, Payne's grey and a bit of ultramarine. Plenty of light in on the sky. Now, I want a bit of green, heavy green. So Payne's grey, that colour there, a bit of caviar yellow in there. The trees on the horizon, but there's a lot of gorse, and gorse is a lovely subject. Got to put out some more. A bit more blue in there, just coming across the horizon, or whatever. And then have a little bit of. It was very frosty yesterday, so that's some of that, a bit of sienna in there, and what's a very heavy type gorse. There could be trees on that distance, but gorse, burnt sienna, Payne's grey, plenty of this yellow, and even a bit of that blue. I will put in. When you're painting on wet, you want to make it very thick. Let's just put that in there, the trees. Okay, well that for me is enough to be a watercolour sketch done in my studio. It could have been done on the spot. This is what Catherine Williams used to do. He would sketch with watercolour or pencil, chalk, or whatever he used, and would elaborate in his studio. I would recommend you watch Catherine. He was the greatest of all Welsh artists, is reckoned to be, not by me, but by the pros. But some of the critics didn't really appreciate what he was doing, because they regarded his work as a caricature of Welsh and Welshness, which it wasn't really. It was just the way he reacted to the beautiful landscape that he was surrounded by. So there we are. That's a good enough sketch for me to work up a bit of a landscape from. I've got my board ready. It's going to be a 10 by 8 inch piece of 2mm MDF. Highly recommend 2mm MDF. Very cheap, extremely durable, very tough. Just prepare it with a bit of PVA glue. I haven't sanded the surface down. So I hope that's a standalone painting anyway. It's highly abstract, no detail, and it's just an impression of whizzing through at 70 miles an hour through this fabulous, what was a forest. Well, it's not a forest now. Yeah, bits of it are, but mostly it's sheep graze, ponies, new forest ponies. Right, okay. Well, enjoy your weekend, folks. Thanks for watching this. Goodbye.